it's me, Mario. How are you, Zach? I don't know
Um,
how bad that sounded.
well, he sounded like Elmo and Mario had a baby.
I mean, Elmo is pretty close to Mario anyway, right? I mean, he
He,
doesn't.
he but Elmo like has like a bit of a more childlike, sound to him.
Yeah, more playful sound.
Yeah,
Yeah, I guess
and
that's
then
true.
and the Mario is just an Italian Palma. But
You can't.
I can't go up
Oh,
that high.
yeah.
And then what's his name? Elmo's like, he's like more in the cheeks.
What? Oh man, who was it that actually when I practice it, I get it pretty good. I can do a Mario fairly well. I'll have to tweak the Elmo out of it, but then
Tweak the Elmo out.
I gotta scrape the Elmo out of my Mario. That sounds so gross.
Ooh.
I gotta find better words. But
Wouldn't you want to scrape the Elmo out of your Mario? Is that what you said? Or did you
yeah,
say
that's
the
exactly
opposite?
what I said.
I thought you said
No,
the opposite.
I don't thought. Well, time will tell in the recording, I guess.
Yeah,
But that's not important right now.
no.
Um, Today, well, you wanted to talk about gaming, the
Games.
effects of gaming, or game theory, maybe even
Well,
the importance, the science behind it,
mm,
for not just for play, like in the primal sense of play, and just gaming in general, how we discover and invent things.
yeah, so what I kind of was thinking about was how does games and play help you develop your as a child into an adult, but like why do we play games? Like there's the social aspect of it, there's the lesson aspect, and then also to think about if there's any games that have negative effects and not just positive.
Well, I know for a fact that that is a well-studied topic, um, and there's probably a lot of good science behind it that I don't know. Um,
I
that
tried looking
said,
up some stuff, but
yeah.
like YouTube was not giving it to me. YouTube was giving me very little bits, and it was very hard to like find actual talks
Well,
like
that's kind of
about
promising. That means we could, if we took it seriously, we could do another episode where we just really dive down into it.
do like our own. Maybe we should do our own research study.
Like a documentary. Yeah, we should do our own research study. Why not? I mean, that's actually a really thrilling idea. And that's when when I look for something on the internet and I can't find it, that means that my brain's like, well, you should make it.
Yeah, right.
I think that's the first thing my brain says is like, well, that's what
It
you got to
was
do. And
just
then
I
that's your
don't know if
job.
it wasn't that it wasn't there. It just wasn't being presented. Like the algorithm when I would search my keywords, it wasn't
Hmm.
popping up. It was mostly about video games. It was talking about game development, and not the development of people.
So they must have just been your keywords. Yeah, like how
Yeah,
you
I'm
were
not sure, but
searching.
I tried several different ways. I looked up why are games important? Why do we play games? Play and human development, games and human development. So I tried, different ways of looking at it, but it was not giving me a terrible amount. Vsauce was one of the few that actually had a decent um, video about games and play.
Well, have you ever seen the movie War Games?
Is that the one where he accidentally hacks the what is it
Basically, the Pentagon's
the
new
Pentagon? That's the word.
supercomputer. Yeah. So one of the themes, I guess you could say, or the concepts rather, in that uh, movie is not just sort of like the cradle of AI, but rather that from games is how we invent things. That's where the games are sort of like our brain's playground for our imagination, right? Because that's where games come from. They come out of the imagination. They're games, I think, in my opinion, at their core, are a way to test reality, right?
Yeah, no, they're a
They're a way to like
simulator.
test things and yeah, and go through new ideas of of movement and thought and action.
Yeah, yeah, no, exactly. That's one of the things I like about games is that they're simulators at low risks and potentially high reward. Because like you
Right.
can get a lot out of games, like a lot of. So let's think about what would be a game, any game that a kid would play, right? That they kind of make up. So say like cops and robbers, right? So you're playing cops and robbers. There's very low risk, but, because you're not really robbing a bank, you know, you're not there's a opportunity for conflict to arise and to be resolved. So you're learning those skills of how to, be diplomatic, how to when to use violence and when to use, your body and how your body moves in space and, you know, cooperation. You're getting into all these different nuances of life that you can experience through play and games.
It's a framework, I agree. It's also part of that framework, I think, is like a way to build morality as well. I had a really we had a strange game that I created when we were kids, and I mean, we're like 7, 8, or 9, and like you mentioned, cops and robbers. So my version of that was called Friends, and we would make guns out of toy guns, of course.
Okay.
They didn't shoot or do anything. They just looked like weapons out of wood and we loved duct tape, and I mean, we pissed our parents off. We would take like extensions from like the vacuum and then tape it up, that would be a scope or a barrel, so like we would just find things around the house
Mhm.
because we were just using our imagination to keep ourselves
Yeah.
occupied, right? So each of us would spend like, a couple hours out of the day, like making an arsenal for us to run around with. And then we'd run around and it was all about ambush, in the forest behind our house. And we would yell bang when we shot, right? Or
Yeah.
boom. And it was an honor system. So if you spotted someone and yelled bang, right? And they didn't, whether they saw you or didn't, they realized a shot was fired, and if it was at them, they had to like, tap out. So it built a
Dang.
good trust
Yeah.
amongst our friends because off the bat, these first few kids that we started hanging out with, and I know them now and we're in our 40s, we still talk and hang out. That was the fun, like the foundation of our trust because they never cheated, or at least I don't
Yeah.
remember
So
anyone cheating.
was it like long range tag? Like hide and go seek tag
It was
almost?
basically range tag. Yeah. I
That's
mean,
pretty sick. I
the
like that.
limit,
You
yeah,
know.
the limit was based on how far you could hear someone, right? So it wasn't really
Mhm.
that far away. I mean, we weren't
No,
like
but I mean,
sniping.
you know, like, even 10 feet, 15, 5 meters,
Yeah.
but that's a good amount.
Right, I mean, especially for a
Um,
bunch of seven-year-olds.
yeah. So that's awesome though, like the imaginary play and fantasy play is what they call that, where you're actually using your imagination and you're getting involved and you're using everyday objects to think about them in different ways. That's something that we kinda lose as you grow up because you keep getting told, "This is what this object's for. This is how you use it. Don't go outside this framework." So, and that's, like, throughout, that's what's, like, even computer programs, they do that to you. Um, but that's awesome because I think it's very important to keep that part of your mind alive and think of things in different ways and not just to stay in the same box. Animators are
Yes.
ridiculously good at doing that. Like animators are really good at they can take a brick. Not only is it a brick, but it can be like now it's a house. Now it's a brick of cheese, and it changes into
Right.
its different things and different different
Yeah,
ways
that's
to
that's
to
like the
use it.
fundamentals of that, right?
Yeah,
Like, just taking a shape and
it's
making
just
it
taking
s
a shape and changing it and subverting it and making it into something different.
yeah.
So,
No, I agree, I think that that's a strong skill to have, it's one that I still use today, definitely. I mean, most of my problem-solving skills was based on
it's
the
come
things.
from your imagination. Yeah.
Yeah, from making up games, and that was our favorite thing to do, at least mine, like, most of the games we played as a kid, um, I would like make up, like I would spend time at school or on the bus or, like in my free time, I would think, oh, what game am I going to play? I want to make up a new game for me and my friends to play tonight, or this evening or whatever, this weekend. So like another one, I called it night games, and all it was like tag at night. But what was
Mm.
cool about it was we weren't allowed to use any lights or anything. So, we would choose like the darkest possible night to like find each other and play tag. And if you found someone, and everybody was against each other, like sometimes we would do teams and stuff. But what was amazing was like how what I paid attention to was how good some of my friends were, including myself, and how bad some of them were at like spotting things at night. So like not just their eyesight, but their ability to identify objects in the dark,
Yeah.
you know. Because I had moments where like a friend came right up to me and stared at me for like it felt like a whole minute because it felt like his brain was trying to determine if I was real or not because I was still as gravestone.
It's
I
so
wasn't
funny.
moving, and he didn't see me, and so he went on. He went on to like look for someone else because he didn't think anything was there, and so
That's
I
crazy.
won. I got away.
Man, one of the games that I remember, like, making up was at, it was at a rendezvous, which is like a Renaissance fair, but more forward in time. And I was
Mm.
a kid, and, a bunch of us other kids got together, and we went into the cornfield that was next to us, and we made forts, and then we took, like, corn, like, off the stalks and started throwing finding each other and throwing it at each other, like, that was our game, and we had to take over the fort. I don't really know how you won or lost, we just it was just a fun thing was throwing corn at each
It's
other
just
and
like
searching for each
attrition,
other.
yeah. You can
Yeah.
kinda tell who's winning, it's like who's more aggressive or who's hitting more targets, that kind
Yeah,
of thing.
right. Like, we
You
because,
just
like, I don't
sorta
remember, like, winning or losing at all. I just remember making a fort, collecting some corn, and throwing it at other kids.
Yeah, the funny thing too is 'cause, we had a similar kinda game, we called it dominoes, and it's funny, my current roommate, we were, I'd say probably 12 at the time, 12 or 13, maybe, yeah, about that age. And what we would do is we'd go into his mother's basement. He had this huge, long, empty basement that was carpeted. And he had these dominoes from a board game that would glow in the dark. So we'd put them under like a fluorescent lamp for like 10 minutes or something while we did other shit. And then they became nuclear. So then we would turn off all the lights, and then all you could see in the dark was someone holding the ammo. So the idea was
Okay.
it's basically dodgeball with these glowing
Oh my
dominoes in the
gosh.
dark. So we would pitch them. I mean, it was a long distance throw. It was a
Yeah.
long basement, and we would pitch them across this basement trying to hit each other, but we couldn't see each other at all. Like it was pitch black.
So you're just aiming
So
for the damn, those are
we
some skills that you're learning right there. That's
dude,
awesome.
man. Yeah, like I mean, it was blind fighting essentially, right? We had to like
Yeah.
guess where that person was. And it was funny because if you when you paid really close attention, you could tell you hit someone because if it hit a soft body, the way it would thud and fall as opposed to hitting the wall and bounce. So you knew you hit someone. So they couldn't lie. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
you could tell.
yeah. You could tell the difference between the
Right.
thud of a flesh and the ping of the floor.
That's what we did as kids, man, and every week, we made up new games, we would joust with fanoodles on our bicycles on a gravel road. That was
So
fun.
we're kind of like having this conversation here, talking about games and cooperation and things like that. What do you think about everyone getting a trophy, regardless of if you won or lost? Because I mean, does that matter? The trophy, anyways.
I think trophies are like titles in, like, a lot of things that we do in life. They're basically a way they're basically just evidence in my mind. It's a
Mm,
way to
yeah,
prove that you did something you said you did, right?
yeah,
So that the glory and adulation that that moment had can be transferred, even if it's a 25% transfer over to a stranger or another person who then discovers the story behind the trophy, right? Because it's like, there's I often think about this too. Like, there's so many things sometimes I've done in my life that were just I thought really profound, but it's like I'm the only one that knows that happened. Or
right,
perhaps, you know what I mean? Or maybe one other person, the person I helped, they might
yeah,
remember it, or maybe not. I've seen that happen too. Like you do something profound for someone, and it doesn't mean anything to them, but not like in a cynical way. Like they just
right.
just it just
It just meant
didn't.
more to you the interaction meant more to you than it did to the other party.
Yeah, so I think when it comes to like sports and games, a trophy, I think it is important. I think it's not important to the ego because the ego of the person who earned the trophy, their memory is better than the trophy, right? Because they were
Yeah.
there.
Well,
So
that's what
they
I'm
remember the
saying. It's
total
like
experience.
that's what I was kind of thinking about was that the experience of playing the game is more important than getting the trophy. But I think that having the trophy also is a cool thing to get in its own way. It's a reward, right? It's like you did good, you got first place. Look at
It's a
this big
goal.
trophy. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a goal. It's something to work for, and that I think is a powerful motivator and important in its own way. But I really think that it's like a lot of games. I don't really play games anymore that are like social, like with another person to play the game. The game in itself is not cool or fun to me. Like say D&D or cards or whatever dominoes, whatever we're playing. Like that's not really fun in its own right. What's fun and important to me is the social interaction. Like that's what really I'm getting after is this bonding experience and this time that I'm spending with my friends.
I agree. That's always the largest attractor for me as well. the adulation I feel, or the pride I feel from, a moment where I step above the rest is immense, and it
Yeah.
sort of gives you like a street cred, whatever,
Yeah,
with
yeah, don't get me wrong, I love winning. Like,
yeah,
winning
right.
is winning is
Yeah,
awesome, like, that is
right.
I'm gonna play hard, and I'm gonna I'm still competitive in that way.
But it would mean nothing if you didn't have your team, if you didn't
Exactly,
have your
your team
friends or
or
your
your friends there
comrades.
just, like, to play against, like, it doesn't 'cause it's not cool when I play, like, if I play the same game on a computer. Say I played, oh, okay, let's just make it simple, Go Fish. Like, if I'm playing Go Fish, I'm playing because I'm playing with my friends or I'm playing with my niece or whoever, right? But if I play Goldfish on the computer and I was beating the computer or Uno or whatever, it's like, okay, cool, whatever. What a fun time waster. Like that wasn't like,
Yeah, it
it
was
wasn't profound or
more.
important to me.
Yeah, for me, it's like the way I look at it is, it's more like sharpening your knife, right? You're not. It's still the same knife when you play against the AI or the computer, because they're obviously, that's an interesting thing, though. I mean, like for example, one thing I paid attention to when I played games with my friends as kids, when we were kids, is one thing I didn't pay attention to was when we would quit or why we would quit playing a certain game in a day, right? And it didn't become aware to me that some of my friends were so competitive and so egotistical that we were quitting the game because they had lost interest. That didn't become I wasn't aware of that until we started playing video games. So when video games entered our summer weekends or our summer break, right? And we got Super Nintendos and the Sega Genesis and things like that.
Hmm.
Then, of course, right away, oh, Mortal Kombat. Who doesn't want Mortal Kombat for their, at home? So
Hmm.
I was the first one to get Mortal Kombat. So of course everybody came over to, our house to play it. And that's when I started to notice that, and this is just a difference in character. I'm not patting myself on the back, but when I would lose consecutively, it encouraged me to play more, to play longer,
Yeah.
and to practice. And so that when they would come back, I would have more victories. But when some of my friends would lose, it was just a way for them to quit. They,
Hmm.
sometimes it would take two losses and they were done. All right, let's do something else. I can't stand losing. They were sore losers,
Yeah.
basically. And once I started realizing that that was like a human trait, I started applying that logic to memories and other things that I'd been through. And that's when I realized, oh, a lot of these games that we played as kids, we only stopped them because some of my friends were sore losers. They didn't like to keep losing. And that, of course, is a common trait. I mean, it's a derogatory term, but I mean, what else do we call it? I mean, that some people just don't
So
see loss as a challenge. They see it as a dead end,
yeah, we've
like
talked
something to
about
quit on.
um the bigger mouse beating up the little mouse all the time. And then the little
Refresh.
mouse doesn't want to play anymore. And
Oh, okay.
then yeah, so the if the bigger mouse will let the littler mouse win the rough and tumble play every so often, that will keep the spark and the wanting of play in that little mouse. And that's kind of where that goes along into. But my brother was the same way. Like if I beat him in anything, I was always the bigger mouse in everything that me and my brother did because I'm 2 years older than him and I've just been more athletically channel or athletically innate,
Gifted or
gifted,
yeah.
yeah. Um in our pursuits in our play. So like he would always lose and he would always give up, and I hated it when he would give up in the middle of a game. Like no
That's the
matter
worst.
what, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, it's like just I don't care if you're losing, just finish the game. Just like it
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
Because yeah.
I don't even care if I lost at this point. I just wanna finish it because I hate leaving
Because
things unfinished. Like
yes.
that just it's like a tick in my brain, just like it's like, you got that thing there, come on. It's not done yet.
Well, it's one
I hate
thing
it.
to quit over competition, but when you quit in the middle of a competition, you're killing the honor of what's the dignity
Yeah, it
of
was
what
a
is
contract
occurring.
that we signed
Yeah,
together,
exactly. It
We
is.
agreed that we were gonna play this and play the whole thing, and then you just left. It's like, "Okay." Like, that was pretty
That
crappy.
is the character. That is a characteristic that I am always analyzing in other people, especially those that I will consider my friends, or like in the sense that people that I would trust to do things with, right? Or even hire, let's say, or
Mhm.
train. Because if you have if you're willing to quit, if you're willing to kill the honor of a competition, that means you don't have any respect for the game at all. You have no dignity,
Yeah.
no respect for others. And so you're actually a pretty vile person, I think, because of that. And I think it's a trait that can be
That's
fixed,
that's
but
pretty that's pretty intense to say they're a vile person,
I
but
think they are. I think I think there are supervillains walking around all the time. They just and they just haven't had
yeah,
a
but
power flux.
at least their will to succeed is that low, though. You know, it's
Yeah.
like the saying, when the going gets tough, the tough get going, you know? It
You
kinda
can
falls
interpret
into
that
that.
two ways.
Yeah. There's gotta be when the going gets tough, the weak get weaker. I don't know, man, but it's
Yeah. I think that that is one of the most, well, what I think, one of the most important traits or characteristics to take away from gaming, as far as a positive is concerned, is that playing games as a kid definitely taught me or began the instruction of how to judge other people for their qualities and compare them to my own. And when I started doing that, then I started looking at what I could improve in myself and what I wanted to improve, you know?
mm,
And it also created, it created a new, what do you call, a checkpoint in my mind for, a category of things that upset me and things that please me, right? Because how many categories how many times do we do that with every topic in our mind, with reality, with life, with everything that goes on? It seems like every subject there is ways to, you know, not just learn, but look at things in a good way or look at things in a bad way and discover what matters to you, how to discriminate, how to discern.
yeah, and what you wanna be like and what you wanna add to your attributes and what you see other people doing, like, "Oh, I definitely don't wanna be doing that." Do you think that's kinda like where athletes can become heroes? Because I never understood that, like, why how an athlete or someone or a movie star or anyone that you don't personally know could be a hero to you. Like, and, like, it's just like, you don't know what that person's like. You don't know what they do. And plus, why don't you just wanna be like yourself? Like, to me, that didn't never made sense.
Well,
So do you think
w-
that's where it's coming from, though? Is that it's like, these are qualities that I see from the way they play the game. Like, that's what I wanna do. Like, I wanna
I
be
think that's
honest and trustworthy and all these other things, and hard going, you know?
well, the harder you focus, this is something that this is a moral dilemma I've had my entire life because it seems to me the harder you focus on something, the more morality you have to break in order to reach the new goals that you set. So, whatever your plan for success is,
Mhm.
what you think will make you happy, I feel one has to be very careful about because
About
in order to,
achieving?
yeah, about achieving because what you want to achieve, it's like, I'm trying to think of an example, but like,
We were
uh,
talking about this in our last episode a little bit with companies and how they, in their drive to succeed and do better, like get more money, pretty much, and get their brand out there. They're breaking different morals to in order to do that.
right. But I think the difference there is that is more a conversation about the competition of the competition in the game itself, right?
Hmm.
What you ought to do based on what you ought to do in order to reach whatever your goals are. But when they're just personal goals, like in an athlete, right?
Hmm.
Like say that your only focus is to beat yourself or to beat your next opponent. I think you have to shut out a lot. I mean, I think it's with any realm of success or anything you focus on. That's how I understand it, how I believe it, I guess. And anytime I've succeeded, and the reason I believe that way is because anytime I've succeeded at something in life that took great effort, I had to do that. I had to cut out a lot. I had to ignore a lot about myself and other minor responsibilities in
Right.
life, or at times even hurt myself or others in order to get what I wanted, in order to achieve, a certain goal. And
Well,
I
you're trying to
think
find your balances in life. right? Because you can only there's only so many hours in a day, and there's only so many things you can do. So you have
Mm,
to turn up your say you have 100 watts of energy, right? And you have 5 categories. Well, you can't put 100 watts in each thing. So
true.
you're gonna have to find which ones you're gonna have to lower, and other ones you're gonna have to, or you can or want to put more energy into. I mean,
Yeah, I think like the old saying goes, there's nothing's free. Everything comes with a price. And
yeah,
that is
even what you're doing, just
yeah,
doing things comes at a price because you're sacrificing time in another aspect.
right. And I also think that it's not healthy to think of as what you do with your time as just an automatic waste if every moment isn't spent on achieving some dream.
Well, I
It
think
is only if
relaxation is important too. I think you have to spend time on just decompressing. I think that's very important because otherwise you just become overworked, overstressed, and you burn out.
right,
You
right. And
know?
I think that's what when it comes to professional athletes, the best ones seem to realize that their downtime is part of the formula for their
Yes.
greatness.
No, it really is.
It's not an interruption. It's not a holdback. As long as it's properly utilized, I
And
guess.
and it's not just athletes, it's anyone working in computers too. You cannot stare at a screen all day. Your eyes and your brain will just go numb. Like you'll
Hmm.
just like you'll stop caring. Your production level will go down. You had to take a break, walk around for every like say like every hour or so, just walk around for 5 minutes and kind of just all right, I did some work. We're good. I'm taking a little break, getting some water. You're experiencing other things that you can actually put into your work. Say you're working at a like a company, right? You take 5 minutes to walk around. You kind of look at what other people are doing, and you see someone else doing some badass shit. Like fuck, I can do that. Oh, cool. Okay, let's like I see what you're doing. Let me add some incorporate that into what I'm doing a little bit too. So I think that's important is that downtime.
It is, and then I think I know for sure the most important thing to me about any game or work or problem is problem solving.
Hmm.
Um, at any time is that if that is ever removed, if work becomes monotonous to me, my brain shuts off and I'm just done. I don't find comfort in that. I know, like, I'm the opposite of, I guess, someone who does. When it comes to that, like some people like their job getting easier. They like it feeling just something that they can manage without a lot of stress. It can just be easy for them to do.
I like the
Even if it
feeling
started
of
out complicated.
not sucking at something, like, that makes me feel good, but I do like
Hmm.
the aspect of, like, there's always a problem to solve, you know? If I'm good at problem solving, then, I'm fine with that. If I get really good at it and it comes easy to me, like, that's okay because I'm still being challenged in a sense because it's like I still have to think about, even at serving, I have to think about, like, my path, right? Which way am I going to go from the kitchen to my table, and what lines am I going to take to go across these three different tables? Like, because they can take different shapes. Sometimes it's a one line, sometimes it's like an L, sometimes it's a stack of three tables. So it's like, how am I going to make this easiest for me?
Right.
That's kind
Well,
of part of the fun in it.
that's why I don't think it's not a cliche, and I guess I do bristle a little when people mock at it that that everything in life is a game. Everything in life is a game. Everything
Life
is a
itself is a
game.
game, man.
Yeah, everything you do is in some form a game. It's based on victory and loss.
And
You can
cooperation,
break it
and
down even to the
yeah,
simplest things. I mean, when I say victory and loss, I don't just mean like a finish line or a war. I mean like like you said, like getting to a table on time and pleasing your customers, things like
yeah.
that. Like that's a victory,
It
right?
is. It is a
And the
victory,
opposite would be
and
a
it feels
loss, right?
good. No,
Yeah.
absolutely. Like, sometimes people stiff you, and sometimes people will give you great tips, and I feel like it doesn't really matter how good you did or how bad you did. Like, some people just tip well, some people just don't. And
Hmm.
the thing the way you can really judge yourself is by just feeling, did I do my best? Did I do everything I possibly could have to make this everything happen on time, efficiently, and all these other things. So as long as you're doing that, I think that's what's important is to be always improving on yourself, like thinking about how can I do this better next time? Like did I fail or did I succeed in this aspect?
And that is I mean, that is the core problem solving, I think, is how to get just whatever you lack, not experience, but skill in, you're trying to get better at.
Yeah, well,
But
that's one
there
of the
are
things I like
Yeah, go
about
ahead.
3ds Max a lot too, was that there's like 100 different ways to do the same thing. Like, you
How
can
to
you
approach a problem.
yeah,
Yeah.
how to model something. Like, you can do plane modeling, you can do line models, you can do all these different types of ways to you could start with a cylinder, you could start with a sphere. Like, you could choose how you want to attack this model and come out, and which way is going to be the easiest, and which way sometimes the thing you think is going to work just doesn't work. It doesn't work out the way you wanted it to. So you had to find a different way to model that same object, which is, it's really cool and really fun. It's writing's the same way, it's a lot of problem solving. It's about who has the biggest bag of tricks. How are you going to get this horse to relax its head? How are you going to make
Mhm.
it self carry? There's different ways to do it, and each horse is different because they have a mind. So they have they think about things in different ways, just like you and I do.
Do you think that, most of what we're talking about right now are the positives of gaming or games of play?
Yeah.
What are some of the more significant negatives, or do you think, or is it possible that, part of the negatives that we see in people in society are in part to the way we teach and play games, not just video games, but,
hmm
play, like what is allowed amongst play and children in general?
So throughout
Uh,
this conversation, I think we
yeah,
sussed out that games can tell you negative aspects about your co-gamers, right? They can tell
yeah.
you what they lack, what they're good at, what they're
If
bad
they're
at.
cheaters,
If they're
yeah,
cheaters, if they're
liars.
morally complicated or
Mhm,
compromised.
mhm.
Um, I think games can be negative if you get a big ego about your game, right? Like, if you start to think, yeah, I'm the best, I'm so good at this and everyone else sucks, like, I think that a
But
game
does the
can
game in
reinforce. I think it reinforces that
Mhm.
mentality, though. I think until you have been brought down a peg, it's going to keep happening, it's going to keep escalating, and you're just going to like.
Well, isn't that based on reward though? I mean, if the game is rewarding that, then that's why it is sought out. That's why it influences the player to be that way.
Yeah, but I still think that's a negative aspect. It comes from the person itself, right?
Mhm.
But I think the game is reinforcing those ideas.
But it
Take like
doesn't
a
ruin the game though, does it? I mean, does it
No,
ruin
I
your
don't think the
character?
game is inherently bad. I think that the game just it's just a byproduct of the game reinforcing the person's already preset personality. So take like a
Because trash
football.
talk is one of the most important aspects. I mean, I really do think it's important for like lots of different sports is hazing and trash talk, not just with teammates, but really more with your
Again, yeah.
opposing
Well,
teammates
that's one of the things, like,
or teams
in
rather.
on online games, when people talk about, toxic players, I
Mhm.
thought that you could talk to the other team. I thought that's what they were talking about, but apparently most of it is within your own team, and I'm like, "That doesn't make
Right.
any sense to me." Like, why would you talk shit to your own team? Like, that how is that helpful? Like, why would you do that? Like, you're
Well,
not
that's
gonna
just
make them any
yeah.
better by you ragging on them, saying you're gonna fuck their mother or whatever, you know?
Well, I think one of the major negatives about, um, competition anonymously, like with online gaming, is that it doesn't seem to build any camaraderie because there's no respect for people as individuals. It's almost like you're just playing with a computer that talks as well as the average idiot, right? I mean, imagine for a moment that you went, like, I used to play Yahoo Chess. I used to think about this. Like, imagine for a moment that I was playing chess online with a computer program. But if that computer program was a bot that talked shit like any average player and I didn't know it was a bot, like, would I think any differently? You know what I'm saying? Like, I all that proved to me is that I didn't think of my competitors or my teammates in an
You
online game as human.
I think
Even when I knew they were
Yeah,
human, I didn't think of
really.
them as human. Yeah. So, I mean,
Is that
inherently,
just
like my
because you can't
mind,
see them? Do you think you
yeah, I
don't
mean,
see the
I
person?
think that's
So
the
if
big,
you
yeah, I
were,
really think that's the main thing.
because I guess when you played with your friends, Mortal Kombat, right? You saw them as human. You still saw the person. You didn't think of them
I
as
saw them
a
as, yeah, as a person, right? I mean, Like,
I kind of felt that too because when I played Mortal Kombat online, it feels like a very difficult AI. I'm like, this AI is so hard, I can't beat it.
right. And I think
Um,
that is also your brain's main approach to unraveling the necessary steps to conquer it as well. It doesn't consider the opponent. If you really pay attention to your thoughts, because I noticed that with me at least, that when I really pay attention to my thoughts, my brain isn't really thinking of my opponent as human. Just like you said, it's a really difficult computer program to beat.
yeah. But when you
And
play football, right, you don't do that with your teammate. You don't ever talk, but you'll talk crap to the opposing team sometimes. Like when you're across the
right.
line, you're like, it's like, I know you're gonna submarine me, so I'm just gonna push you right down. Like, don't even try it.
Well, and it's also not about, I mean, toxicity of online players and gamers, and I've done it myself. I call it mannering, like where you just, you start off saying nice things, right, to get them to be like friendly and open and sort of drop their guard, and then as soon as they make even the most minor mistake, you just shit all over them. You just make them feel like they're nothing because it just completely they're disarmed. Their shield is down, mentally,
On
psychologically.
as the opponent.
Yeah, against the opponent, and
That's
now
so
they're
funny.
you yeah, it's a psychological game, right?
I never thought
It's
about
mind
that.
games. Yeah, so that's what I'm doing is playing a mind game. I mean, I've had this conversation with many friends before, and I don't know which ones agreed or didn't, but I think it's true. And when I play PvP games, right, player versus player games online, it
Mhm.
doesn't matter if it's a shooter or an MMO. I'm not really I'm less concerned about the skill of the players I'm about to take on and compete with and fight against than I am with how well I can psychologically demoralize them. Now, back in the day when there were no filters for chat, I mean, no, now you can't even talk to like anyone in most online games. They just got rid of it because it's just nothing but 9-year-olds yelling, the N word, and then
Obscenities.
it gets it's just obscenities and Jew hate, and so like it just gets because
Jew
people just want to
hate.
get people just want to get down and dirty to
Yeah.
psychologically disarm each other because that's what's going on. Is because now if I trip up your thinking, right?
Mhm.
It's like in racing. It's called leading, I believe, right? Where if you're watching the car in front of you rather than everything in front of you, then the car in front of you, that driver has control of what you
Over you,
think
yeah.
over your movement. So
Mhm.
he's going to lead you into traps, right? Into physical maneuvers with the vehicle that will spin you out or make you slow down or lose temporary control so that he can get an even greater gain on
Wow.
you.
That's cool.
So yeah, exactly. And that's what my brain thinks about is shit like that when I'm playing against other people is how I can do that to them, how I can manipulate them so that they'll beat themselves. Because you can't it's often the case that you can't beat another player because they're just too good. Like I'm always going to run into players that are better than me, right?
I think that would be, like, a really funny thing, though, is to hear talk from sports where there is no trash talk, like in, like NASCAR. Like, you can't talk to the other team, but imagine if you could, like, you have, like,
What,
some kinda,
dude?
like, Southerners, like, what would Southern's, like, trash talk sound like? Talk about, like, raccoons and how and how you come from a trash panda family, you know? Or
Dude,
like you were talking about chess, like, what if you could
yeah.
talk your trash talk in chess, but, like, only when it was the other player's turn? So, like, at before they hit the when you hit the timer, you can start talking, right, for your because your turn's over. So now you can talk, and then once they hit the thing, you have to stop talking.
I'll give you an example of something I did and that I did while playing chess once in a chess club in high school that I started actually. And I was playing against a fellow student, and I had a pretty good idea of what his next move was going to be, what the smartest next move would be. And
Mhm,
my plan was the moment he did that, I was already thinking about it. As soon as he makes this good move, the smartest move that he can,
mhm.
I'm gonna say something like, "Ooh, I wouldn't have done that," and then just move one of my pieces right away to make it look like I had a counter plan in
Yeah,
play. But I
yeah,
didn't. I was
right,
just moving a pawn up that didn't mean anything to what my strategy was, right? So he did that. He made the move that was the smartest move for him to make, which was a detriment to my strategy. And as soon as he did that, I made a counter move instantly that meant nothing. It was just a counter, it was just a quick
yeah,
move. But I said that aloud, and then his hand went up to his chin, and now he's thinking, right? Because I just pokered him. I just poker
yeah.
faced him basically. I just tripped him up. And I think to this day I won that game because of that play,
That's
that
awesome, though.
manipulation.
That's so
Yeah.
funny. That's so weird. That's such a weird thing to think about, like how you can manipulate people into sucking. because of what you say as the opponent. See, because like whenever I heard would play against people, I'd be like, whatever my opponent says is a lie. You know, like they're
Yeah.
not there to help me. They're not like everything they say
No.
is a lie. So it's like, why
Exactly.
trust them? Why take their word on anything? Like
The
just pay
game
them
is
no
how
mind.
long. Yes. I think part of
Yeah,
the game, though, in the mental game is how long can you ignore it? Who gets to you? You never know. It's like that guy Chael, that one of my favorite, like, what was it, UFC or MMA fighter? I can't remember. Chael something. Oh, Chael Sonnen or something like. I wish I could remember his damn name now. The guy was just the ultimate shit talker, right? Now he
yeah,
could back it up, right? So you could be, you could say he's not a shit talker. He's just good because he can be arrogant, but he can also deliver. So that just means
right.
he's good. But even though he was that way, I feel like he beat a lot. When you watch his fights, I feel like he beat a lot of his opponents because he just talks such great,
The guy, he
shit.
psyched him out. He
His
would just,
trash talk
yeah.
was just, yeah, he would psych them out so well. And I think that's really the only way to beat someone is better than you. You have to psych them out.
Is to get them unsettled. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Because yeah,
speaking of MMA, I did see one thing where the one guy was trash talking real hard, and the other guy was just like sitting there taking it, just like stone
yeah,
faced, like I don't care what you say, you're nothing, you're nothing. You know, he's just
yeah,
like stone facing. There's like that pregame thing where they meet up, and then
yeah.
it was like right before, and
The way in,
the
yeah,
dude comes in like that was trash talking, comes in so hard and fast, and the dude like takes one dodge and then knocks him out with the other punch. I was like, damn, like that is insane. Like that got me. I was like, wow. So like, why waste your energy on shit talking? It was what I took away from that one, though.
it's you've got to be able, if you're going to be the aggressive shit talker, you've got to be able to back it up,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like that's like my example of that guy Chael, or my example of the chess move. Like you've got to already be ahead in your move and your plan of how you're going to back up what you're about to do or say.
Hmm.
And there's different ways. So I think that you could see that as a positive, but I think that's more a negative to competition. I think the only reason it's a negative is because more and more of how we play games, invent games, and compete with games professionally is being done online. I don't think athletic sports are going to go anywhere. They're here to stay forever, right? As long as, even if we got, surrogate robot bodies, we would still want to use them to their limit. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like to see how awesome we could
Well, it's
be
just
with
cool
our.
to watch things demolish each other.
Yeah,
That's the thing,
exactly. Right. I
and
mean,
it's
how
fun to
cool.
partake in that, dude. Rough and tumble play is so fun. It's
Yeah.
awesome, and it teaches you so much about you, the world around you, and other people. It's so
Yes.
cool.
Yeah.
I think yeah, it's so important. Even playing like play fights with like people that are bigger than you, say when you're a kid and you're fighting with your
Yeah.
dad, like that's like one of the most bonding experiences I ever had with my dad. It was just like play fighting with him. I remember just trying to push him off the bed.
Yeah.
Like I'm a
Just
kid
like,
and I'm
yeah.
just trying to push him off like that.
That's all. Yeah. Just get him out of the ring. It's
And
like a sumo match.
yeah,
Just
and
like,
then when I get him like on that like that teeter, like oh, it's like that's like when it's like yes,
no, you
I
got to
won,
strike.
I
That's it.
got one.
That's your window.
That's my victory. It's just the
Yeah.
whoa.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that, oh, you totally threw me off with that.
Sorry, I had like a very visual memory of that, like with my dad
No,
just
no,
trying to
no. I
push
think
him.
that's it's a good example of whatever I was going to say. So, I do think though that, for a long time, especially with video gaming, there's this argument that it fosters violence. I think I think there is a here's what I think. I think that there is an important conversation to have about that, and a science to study of it, and I'm sure it is being done or has been done. I think the mistake is when it's used politically to blame, um, to be the source of blame for like an active shooter or some other violence done in society. I think
Yeah,
that's when it's gone. I think when the naysayers have gone too far because they can't back that up with any evidence,
yeah,
right? And like anything, that should be the limit of our argument is the evidence. Unfortunately, it's not. But I
yeah,
do think, however, though, because I think it's very clear that like movies and other media do foster some kind of aggression, right? It does give your mind, sort of like a comparison to make for what aggression might be necessary in different situations. Because I
see,
know
I
for sure that
yeah,
I get aggressive sometimes just watching a certain movie, and I can feel my rational mind slipping. And I'll even shout at the screen and clench my fist and scream and like roar, like I just really get into it.
yeah, but you don't take that out to other people though. you
No,
don't
not necessarily, but it does give me a framework to use if I have to or want to, and that's my point. I think that it is a type of manipulation like we were talking about earlier.
okay.
It's
I
a way
guess,
of
yeah, it
speaking to the
gives you a
mind.
yeah, but I think it's more of an outlet than a boost. You know, I think it's more of a way to get rid of those impulses and those urges.
Well, my
It's
point
a
is
way
that it's
to
a
release.
reference. My point is that it's a reference. I'm not saying that
Yeah,
watching a
so
movie will make you go invade Poland. I'm just saying
yeah,
that
but so you're saying it's like it's a what do you call it? It's something to I can't think of the words.
it's a modality for like proper for what you would consider a proper response, especially if you were witnessing a type of violence, let's say, that you have never executed or been the victim of. So you have only your only mental reference is the movie you saw it in. See
Right.
my
So you never
point?
thought about Kurt stomping someone until you saw it happen in American History X. It's kind of like what you're saying. Like
Well,
you wouldn't
I've
have
never
thought of that
curb
on your own.
stomped someone and I've never had it done to me.
Right. So
So
so you
my
wouldn't have
only
thought about
reference
it
is that. Well,
until you
that's my
saw the
point.
movie. Yeah.
If I
Okay.
if for some reason I got so crazy, mad with rage that I
Mhm.
wanted to curb stomp someone's face, that's how I would do it. I would my mind that's literally that movie and that image is what my brain would tell me to do if I got that far stupid. You know what I'm saying? That's my point. So
Yeah.
it
So
does give you a reference for violence that you didn't have in the real
yeah.
sense.
I mean, it's just like any art form. But yeah, because like it's an
Just like
imagination.
any art form.
Yeah. All art is to show you different ways um to see the world and to give you new experiences and to see things.
Wow, that was some really hippie shit.
I don't know how that's hippie.
That got so gray, like philosophically. I don't like you could say that about anything. What do you mean? Like, how does that relate? How does violence? How do we go from violence to
Well,
that?
I think violence can be beautiful in its own way, but I mean the splattering, you know, the way in the way that it impact and everything and it comes across. I mean it's a very violent thing to paint like that. And you could also use that in violence, you know. It can still be beautiful.
I don't think
Anyways,
I think violence and beauty are two separate things. I don't think they're not overlapping.
oh dude, fire is one of the most violent things, but it's so beautiful to see a tunnel of fire.
Oh, that's what you mean. So like it's. I mean, okay, I get what you mean now. It's how it looks, not what it does.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
no, the impact of violence and it hurting others and destroying lives, that's not beautiful, but the
Okay, that's what I thought you meant. So I was like, yeah, I don't think I agree with that. In fact, I don't.
no, no, I mean, suffering and pain can show beauty, but I mean, it itself is not.
Yeah, so I think that's really the only major negative I can think of is just
Is
another
shit
way, it's just another
talking?
way to blame the internet. Really, when you think about it, if you want to reduce it to that, but that's really what it is. It's the lack of interaction makes people brave. I mean, even Mike
Well, I
Tyson
think it's
said it.
it's yeah, it's the lack of human interaction, seeing the other person. So I think if you saw like kind of like how we are right now in a live stream, if you saw the other person, um, it might change the way you talk to them
Oh
in a
no,
video game.
it absolutely would. I mean, there'd still be that you'd still have that I'm in my car safety feeling,
Yes,
you know what I mean?
yes,
Like, you wouldn't I can shout at this other driver because 'cause I'm in my car, it's a giant weapon, I'll run them over if they get too violent. You know what I mean? Like, you're not there's that, that false safety, you can be more
right.
aggressive or more,
Because if you ever watch esports,
annoying.
man, and they're playing against each other in the same room, they're so laser focused and they're not talking
That
at
shit is so
all.
boring to me, dude. I honestly like you know what? Okay, the gameplay isn't boring. Like I like watching, like especially like we talked about Mortal Kombat, like
Hmm.
online fighters, like those tournaments. That shit's really exciting to me because I have an idea of like what skill level you need to like get that good, right?
Right,
And that blows
right.
my mind. Um, but like if when they go over to the players and they're just these really boring people. But I mean, I've yet to think I see any esport person that would kid or young adult that was interesting in any way as a person. And not that they should just be this Jim Carrey character or something, but they just seem really really boring. I don't know if
Yeah,
it's
and then they're also their interviews are so awkward too.
it should. It seems like the first time they're talking to a person. And I'm sure for some of them, that may even be close to true. They may have been in their apartment or with their family only
For the last 5
their
years.
entire
Yeah,
5 years for the last 18, you know what I
yeah.
mean? So, I think, yeah, I still don't have the respect for esports that I do for athletic sports, although I do consider it a sport. I used to not to
Mhm,
when I was more arrogant when I was younger. I used to think, "No, this, that's not a sport." But then I'm like, "What's the definition of a sport?" If the definition of a sport is the attempt for the greatest excellence in a category of certain skills,
mhm.
and the mind is an organ. It's a part of your body as well. It's a physical thing. Then that can be applied to anything. It doesn't matter if you're sitting
I was gonna
down or
say,
running.
is chess a sport?
Yeah, I mean, technically,
Then
chess is a
yeah,
sport.
then to
Yeah,
me, esports is, they're sports.
right, right.
It's the
So,
same thing. It's an intellectual game.
I mean, it all does come down to the
And
mind.
there's a lot of dexterity in your fingers and too, and quick actions and everything.
Sure, I mean, your response time, and when you look at
Yeah.
when you look at the mechanics of what goes into being a video game player, it's actually rather boring because I mean, it's down to like how your peripherals um react, the technology behind them, how good they are. I feel it's a bit homogenized though. It's not like say a bicyclist where it's like an attempt to melt the function of the body and its muscles with the bike itself. There's more nuance going on there as far as like how the bike is designed and how
Mhm.
well it
Yeah.
works with the
That's why
body
people
that's
keep running
riding it.
faster, is because the shoes are improving.
Yeah, yeah, shoes, I guess, could be compared that way, but a bicycle's a better example, I think, because it's more complex, right? There's more things to tweak, is what I'm getting at. There's more
Yeah.
dials to turn, right? As far as the technology is concerned. But with like the technology for like a mouse and a keyboard, once one is perfected, it really doesn't matter which fingers are applied. The fastest fingers are going to be the best on a certain keyboard. In other words,
Mm.
doesn't matter who owns the fingers, is what I'm getting at. So it's like that's kind of homogenized. That's why it's not interesting when they go over that shit. It's like, oh boy, you've got whatever mouse with response time, blah blah blah. It's like,
Oh,
yeah,
they go over
okay.
the specs in esports
Oh,
of the
dude, they of
yeah.
course they need shit to talk about. What are they going to talk about? These kids don't have exciting lives. It's not like they go out. You know what I mean? Like they're not shoot. They're not like ex rappers who became like football linemen or something. You know what I'm saying? Like they're not going out doing wild shit, or at least they're not reporting on it. I mean,
Yeah.
if I was a professional gamer, I'd be dead by now. Sure, with all that money, like, but at least there'd be stories. You know what I mean? There'd be something
Mm.
exciting about the athlete that you'd want to know.
Yeah, I feel like
I
money
mean,
is the
like,
most dangerous thing for you.
yeah,
You always
without a
talk
doubt.
about how much, if you came into money, how you would give it all away to your friends and then spend it all on drugs
That's
and
all I do
other.
with it when I don't have it. So, yeah, it's like, obviously, if I just had more of that, I would just do more of that, you know?
Yeah, yeah, I guess so. I guess I do more or nothing.
Yeah. But, I don't know. Yeah, so I think about also another negative, I guess, for me is the amount of time that especially video games or any game can take away. There's only so much I think you can learn or perfect with any game designed for entertainment, right?
Yeah,
Even chess. I mean, although that is a great mental game, there is a limit to that as well, as any
right.
professional chess player we'll talk about. But video games, I think that's the biggest, is that it can be like a drug. It can be something that
Well, it's a
pulls you
dopamine
away from
response. Yeah.
other responsibilities. Yeah.
Yeah. There's games out there designed to help you learn. Like there's like math games and there's word games and things like that. Like when I was a kid, the only games we were allowed to have on the computer were educational games. And
Mm.
then we could have other games like regular video games on the Nintendo. So yeah, I can see how like video games in general can do suck a lot of time. That's why you have to make it clear to yourself that this is leisure time. This is time that I'm regenerating. This is not meant to be, informative or educational at this moment. Like this time is just to decompress. Like this is important in its own way.
I am so terrible at limiting my leisure time.
Mm.
Absolutely terrible about
I,
it.
I'm bad at it in the sense that I don't put it in. Like, and then if I was to, then I would just, yeah, like what you're saying, I would just let it run free. Like, I take a whole day. I just spend the
Yeah.
whole day playing video games if that's what it is. Like, I'm not gonna split my day up, like, "Alright, the first, like, few hours I'm gonna work out, then I'm gonna go clean up, and then I'm gonna play video games." But, like, that might work, but if I put video games in the middle, I'm not doing the other one. The other 2 are first, the other 2 are not gonna happen, because 'cause I'm just gonna chill for the rest of the day. I'm just gonna like, cause my thing is, like, once I get into that lazy mode in my brain, it's almost impossible for me to get out of, because I, like,
Like to
uh
self motivate out of it.
yeah, that's
You need
why I
it to be
work
an
out.
outside
The first
source.
thing I do in the morning is usually work out. If I can make that happen, then that's what I'm
Mhm.
gonna do, because otherwise, if it's the last thing I do in the day, I don't have the motivation for it. Like, I just don't wanna do it. Like, I'll just go do it, but it's like 5 times harder. It's
Mhm.
ridiculous.
No, I understand that. Yeah, that makes sense. I'm one of those. I don't know why. I used to talk about this with other people who I used to work out with, and they're like you. They like to get it done in the morning. I think they have a similar mentality. It's almost like a get it out of the way.
Yeah, I don't like working out. It's not fun for me.
Yeah.
For you, I know it is. I know you like
Yeah.
working out.
I like it. Yeah.
I hate it. It's so boring to me, and,
You feel it's a waste of time? I mean,
yeah.
other
Well,
than
and it's not a waste of time because the results are there and they happen,
right.
like, that's a good thing, but I'm working out for 2 hours, and it's like, "This is ridiculous. This takes so long," and I only rest for, like, a minute in between sets. It's not like I'm taking, a half hour on my phone in between sets, like, thumbing through Instagram or whatever, Like, I'm working the whole time, and it's
I
a
think
lot,
that's yeah. I
and
you know, I think that's why a lot of people hate working out is because it's only a management. Like it's not like riding a bicycle, right? You could stop riding a bicycle for 20 years and then get on a bicycle.
yeah.
You could ride it again.
Yeah, you
That
lost no
skill is
skill.
still there, right? But that's not true with your body, with your fitness. It's a literally a permanent management that you have to do.
Yeah, and then once you stop, it kinda you can I feel like there's a certain amount of time where you're paused, right? And you're if you're working out. I don't know how
Yeah.
long it is until you start deteriorating in muscle, but I feel like it's gotta be, like, around a month. Like, if you don't work out for a month, you'll be okay. Like, you can come back and you'll be, like, paused almost. But if
Yes.
you go
Yeah.
any longer, you start to atrophy, and then you have to start that process again, and you'll be sore again every day for a little bit. And it's like, this is the
Yeah.
worst. So it's like I can't even stop for like, you know, 6 months and be fit. Like I worked to this level and now I can stop.
Well,
It's so it's like there's just lost progress.
there is. I think the worst is what I did because I agree with you. Like there's times where like I didn't work out for a month or two, and then I could feel that I had like I'd wake up my body or muscles again, but then I
Yeah.
was fine, and it took only like a couple days to recover. Like it was like
Yeah.
one recovery period, and I was fine.
Mm,
I didn't really feel total permanent loss until I hit like about a year. It's like eight
yeah.
after 8 months. It's like 8 plus months. That's when the real depression of fitness loss sets in for me because then I knew like okay now I've literally got to start over again. Like where I'm at
Yeah.
now, I have to start over again at zero. You know what I mean? So
Oh,
or
and
almost
it's so
zero.
frustrating too.
Well,
Because I've
yeah,
done that a few times in the
yeah.
past where I'd work out consistently for about 6 months and then I'd stop. And then I was like, "Okay, now I gotta start over again." And then I do that a few times. And then I started finally I've been working out for like a year and a half now consistently. So,
So what is the most important game that we have to play in life?
I don't know, what is the
Since life
most
is a
important?
game.
Yeah, so what aspect of life is the most important to
No, the
play?
most important game that we play in life.
Oh, like what have I found the most like useful to promote like things in life? Like aspects.
Sure.
Okay, so D&D definitely has been the most useful to me. I have developed social skills and how to talk to people and how to get them to do what I want through diplomacy because of D&D.
So
D&D
it's
has
someone
taught me
else's
a
game,
lot.
basically. Yeah.
Mhm.
But it's someone else's game that you applied. I mean, the game of D&D itself has taught you life skills. Is that what you're
Yes.
saying?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. For sure. Cuz there's this time that I was at I was at a hotel and we were having problems with like our reservation, and we had a voucher and everything, and we're supposed to able to get in and out like right away. It was supposed to be super easy. But this guy was like, it was just difficult. Like for something was going on, and then my girlfriend at the time, she goes out to the car to grab something, and then I'm sitting at the front desk talking to this guy, and I'm like, I see his name, I say his name and everything. I'm like, so man, you just start, or are you about done with the night? He's like, man, I just started this job. He's like, I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, well, I had this other job in the morning doing the same thing, and now I'm here and I got another 8 hours to go. Like, dude, that's a lot. And then we just start talking, become, chummy. And then he's like,
Mhm.
here, I got this. We'll just fix it right now. We got everything fixed for you. I was like, yes. It was like all because of like, little D&D tricks I picked up, how to talk to people, how to get them on your side. And like just talking to this person. And it was awesome. By the time that my girlfriend came back to us, everything was done. And I fixed it all. So the reason she went to the car became like inert. Like she didn't have to go there anymore to get whatever she had to get. So it was perfect.
What type of game? What? So I think of like the holy, not holy trinity, but like the three major frameworks for types of games. I categorize this way: physical, social, and political. And by political, I mean by how you use only your or mainly your mind to succeed or to win or to manipulate
Right.
things like that, right? So what do you, which do you prefer? More physical, more social, or more political? And by social, I mean obviously physical is
Mhm.
self-explanatory, but by social, I mean a game that requires more teamwork to win. So
And which
solo
do I
play is
prefer
less.
to play? I
Yeah.
actually hate social games,
Mm,
like that in that regard. I feel like I get lost and just become a cog, and I'm not really contributing that much, and I don't matter.
hmm
Um, Mind games, I like them probably the most, but I feel like I suck at it. I feel like there are people that are way better at it than I am, but I think that those are way more important and useful. And physical games, I also feel like I suck at. Like growing up, I was never really good at sports. The only reason I played football is because I enjoyed hitting other people. Like that was fun. But I wasn't very good at it. I was just a lineman that just went forward.
hmm hmm
So, but I guess mind games would be the one I think is the most important, the political aspect.
And what is the most important? What is the most important moral lesson we should take away from gaming in general? What is it the most important thing it teaches us morally?
Hmm. What is the most important thing it teaches us? I would say it taught me perseverance, to never give up, to keep on fighting. No matter how far back you are, there's always the chance that they could screw up harder than you did at that finish line. They can trip, they can fall. You can beat them. There's always a chance. So I would say the most important moral lesson is to keep going.